Hey everyone, and welcome back to another round of Tuesday Night Legacy. This time we've got our final round from our Pauper tournament way back from May 27th. Both returning players, if you're watching the playlist here, this is from the second round, Mono White Heroic, Thomas on the left, and we have Rob playing a Blue-Black Curve deck on the right from round one. Both of these decks don't need an introduction, but I'm going to give them anyways. On Thomas's side, with the Mono White Heroic deck, this deck loves to load up these creatures with Heroic, giving them additional +1/+1 counters, like the Laguna Band Trailblazer and the Akronan Skyguard, and just other value creatures like the Battlefield Raptor having a bunch of keywords there for 1 mana. With all of these enchantments like the Cartouche and Ethereal Armor, and lifelink and things like that. So you load up your one creature, Voltron it into a huge threat, and attack and protect it with things like Karametra's Blessing, giving it hexproof and indestructible. And it even has a playset of Mutagenic Growth to pay some life to get that extra damage in and get over the top before your opponent can set up their board. And then the curve deck on the right is trying to do the exact opposite. It's trying to set up so that it can control all of the things that your opponent are doing. It's got a playset of counter spells, some Devious Cover-Up, Excludes, and if something does hit the battlefield, then it's got sets of Cast Down and Chainer's Edict, trying to find the things that can remove problematic permanents in play with the Ponders and Preordains. And then, of course, it has its 2 win conditions, which are the Gurmag Angler, being able to play for 1 mana after you've cast a ton of spells, and the Serpentine Curve, which is going to be a big payoff for all of these spells that you're using to control the opponent throughout the game. You play this like on turn 15, and it's going to be a huge creature. And then you just turn it sideways, end the game. So I think the real trick here is, can Thomas get in underneath Rob's deck? Let's see. We have Rob on the play here, starting with a Ponder. Taking a look at the top 3, deciding if he likes these 3 cards here. Looks like he's got a Cast Down in there. I don't know if he knows what Thomas is on. Decides to keep them on top and draw a card. So there's the Laguna Band Trailblazer. That is just a 0/4, but can quickly grow. And Rob recognizes this threat and fires off that Chainer's Edict, making Thomas sacrifice a creature. This is going to get around things like hexproof and even indestructible, if it's the only creature in play. See the Akronan Skyguard being deployed here, just another hero creature. This one not as big of a butt, but it does have flying. Seeing the Cartouche come down. Cartouche giving +1/+1 can be bounced. Oh no, that effect is not a part of this game. We see a Defiant Strike as well. I don't have the Defiant Strike on the list here. Went ahead and pulled that up here. Defiant Strike, getting to basically cantrip a card and then also give a +1/+0, so it's actually +2/+1 with the Heroic, but Rob had the Cast Down in response. Killing that creature, didn't have protection, so the only thing in play right now is the Cartouche Warrior. See the Akronan Skyguard come down. It's getting deviously covered up, countering that spell. And it is exiled, and if Rob wanted to, he could have put cards back from his library back in, or from his graveyard back into his library, guaranteeing that the deck never runs out of steam, especially if a deck like this wants to go super duper late into the game, digging through a lot of its resources. So we see that Warrior getting loaded up here with the Sentinel's Eyes, giving it Vigilance. This one of the cards that has a little bit of staying power in the Heroic deck, being able to escape it from the graveyard. Getting some value out of late game there, if everything is taken care of. We do see this Gurmag Angler coming down. Rob deciding to get rid of that sacrifice effect, even though it could be flashback for 7. Decides that a Gurmag is more important at the time. Seeing a Seeker of the Way deployed on Thomas's side, putting an Ethereal Armor down. This is going to make this Warrior get +2/+2, since it counts itself and it counts the Sentinel's Eyes. So this Sentinel is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 with First Strike. So using that Mutagenic Growth, paying 2 life for that. to kill the Gurmag Angler, clearing the way for the Seeker of the Way, casting any kind of non-creature spell that's going to give it lifelink. Not entirely certain what this is. There's a lot going on here, so we're going to pause just for a second. So we saw that. I'm not entirely certain. Oh, it's this guy, the Deathblade Elite. So prevent all combat damage that would be dealt. It has Provoke, so this guy coming in play didn't really matter. But Rob had a removal spell, and in response, there was a Karametra's Blessing, and in response to that, there was a counter spell on Rob's side. So this creature is going to die. The warrior is now dead, and the Seeker of the Way is going to get in for, I believe, 3 lifelink. Passing the turn. Thomas remembering the lifelink. There we are. Back to Rob. Gonna Frantic Inventory. Has one in the graveyard already. So gets to draw 2 cards off of that Aqueduct. Casting the Serpentine Curve. So Serpentine Curve makes the creature. It's a fractal, counting all of the instants and sorceries in exile and engrave. So it looks like it's a 12/12. No, it's a 9/9. Fairly large creature. Does not get to count itself. The spell is not fully resolved until the creature is in play. So we see the Sentinel's Eyes coming back here, exiling 2 cards from the grave. I'm going to provoke this guy here. Oops. The Deathblade Elite. Blocking the 9/9. Or did we decide not to? Oh no, it had Vigilance. So got in there. A little bit more damage. We see Rob using the Chainer's Edict to force him to sacrifice the Vanguard, and then using the Cast Down to get rid of the Seeker. So Thomas deploying another Vanguard. And a Lagona. Trying to decide, maybe go for the Sentinel's Eyes, maybe cast this thing in my hand. Decides to do nothing. Oh, lets the Lagona get countered by another Devious Cover-Up. I think he shuffled a couple cards back into the grave, or back into the deck. Looks like he shuffled the Serpentine Curve back into the deck. Which makes sense. There's only a couple curves in the deck. Oh no, there's 4. Don't listen to me. Seeing a Preordain here. Set up the top of the deck. Another Frantic Inventory, getting to draw 3 cards. One was a land. Looks like one's a black spell. I think that's Evankar's Justice. Going to be able to wipe the board if he needs to. Can even buy it back. This doesn't really bother his Fractal at all. Oh, that was a quick one. We saw a Cast Down, and Thomas conceded. We are on to game 2 here. The Lagona coming into play on Thomas' side turn 1. Always a good play. Starting with a heroic creature so it can attack as soon as turn 2. Seeing the Cartouche come down, getting in for 2. Rob just passed with 2 mana up, most likely holding on to a Cast Down. Looks like Thomas is stuck on 1 mana. Not a great place for him to be. We see a Seeker in hand. Going for a second Lagona. Does Lagona have any special abilities besides heroic? Nope, just gets the +1/+1 counter. Wasn't sure if it gained a life or something whenever it got targeted. So it is going to catch that Cast Down. Going to the grave. Just have the 1/1 Warrior and the 0/4 Lagona as well. We're seeing a Ponder, draw 3, or look at the top 3. Definitely a counterspell in that. But I guess Rob didn't want to see a counterspell right now. Shuffling it up. Maybe he's a little bit low on mana. Those were 3 spells in a row. Sees black. Yeah, he's a little low on mana. Has a Frantic Inventory, though. Ooh, the Hyena Umbra. So this does have Umbra armor, or Totem armor. So if Rob kills this thing, the Hyena armor eats the kill effect instead. keeps the creature alive. You lose the Umbra, but if you have a ton of things on that creature, it's much better to just lose the one enchantment. See an inventory for Rob. He's stuck on 2 blue. Has a black source in hand, wants to play another blue. Decides to keep those because he has the Edict, which he's going to deploy here. And goes for the Gurmag. Makes sense. This is a 2/4. Is this Benevolent Blessing? So this is probably giving protection from black. No longer can be targeted by black spells, so the only thing that's going to get rid of this is an Edict effect. Getting in for 2-3 damage, and there it is. That's the beauty of the control deck, being able to draw so many cards. You can eventually find those play sets of cards that are in there, since the Edict is definitely a play set. Sacred Cat, not a heroic card, but it does have Embalm. Being able to play it from the grave for 1 mana as well. Just a 1/1 lifelinker. Makes targeted removal a little bit worse, but I think Rob's okay with it with his 5/5 in play. Another 5 damage across. 2 mana gets us that Seeker of the Way. But it looks like it's going to catch an Exclude. Countering that creature spell and drawing a card for 3 mana. A pretty good deal for Rob. The cat coming through with an Ethereal Armor, so 2 lifelink. I think Thomas is thinking he might win this race here if he gets to draw 1 more good enchantment. See a Pristine Talisman come down. That's going to make it a little bit harder for Thomas, since every time Rob taps this, he gets to gain a life. Rob churning through the deck. Seeing another Pristine Talisman, decides against it. There's a counterspell. He's got that Mystical Teachings in hand too. Kind of a dead draw right now. 4 mana is just a little bit too much, since Rob definitely has to be playing the control game right now. So this is going to be 4 life gained and 2 life spent. Rob gains some life as well from the Pristine Talisman. Another Preordain. A Serpentine Curve. I think he decides to draw it. 2 curves in hand. Gaining that life, casting that curve. Let's see how big this boy is. I think it's 12-12, 13-13. I think it's a 13-13. And that's going to be the game. So as you can see, the aggro deck just couldn't quite get underneath Rob's control deck there, and such is the rock, paper, scissors of this game sometimes. Aggro loses to control. Thanks again for coming and watching the video. If you like this kind of content, please give a like to the channel and maybe subscribe so that you can stay up to date on all of our newest stuff. Just want to reassure everyone that content will keep coming, albeit at a little bit of a slower pace than I used to be able to put out. It's just a little bit of a tough time right now, but I assure you that the content will keep coming. And as always, I want to thank Spellhold Games for allowing us to use their space to record our content. Wouldn't exist without you. And finally, of course, our next round is going to be a legacy match. It's going to be Ad Nauseam versus 5-color Yorion Zenith. We'll see you then.